Assalamu alaikum, beautiful people. Welcome or welcome back. So today I am here with a Quran story. Finally, you guys, it's been so long with the Quran stories. And I'm here with an amazing, extraordinary story. The story of a man who slept for 100 years. So the person in question is Prophet Uzayr. It was said that he was sent to Bani Israel and he came after Prophet Musa. So Prophet Uzair was traveling one day, and then he was passing by this town that was completely dry. The buildings are going down, everything is dead. And then he was just looking at the town, and then he was wondering. He was like, "Wow, so is there a way Allah can revive this town? This place that is already looking dead and deserted." He was wondering. Note, he wasn't doubting. He was just wondering. And Allah heard that and Allah decided to test him. The story is in chapter 2 of the Quran, verse 259. That is Suratul Baqarah. And the verse says, أو كالذي مر على قرية وهي خاوية على أروشها. Or like the one who passed by a town which had tumbled over its roofs. He said, "Oh, how will Allah ever bring it back to life after its death?" So Allah caused him to die for 100 years. This is the interesting part. So after he died for like 100 years or slept for 100 years, he was woken up by an angel who asked him, "Qala kam labith?" How long did you die slash sleep for? Then he said, "Qala labithtu yawman aw ba'da yawm." I think I slept for like a day or part of a day. All he wanted to do was rest out during his journey. قال بل لبثت مئة عام فانظر إلى طعامك وشرابك لم يتسنى. This is the interesting part. The angel said, "Nay, you have remained dead for 100 years. So look at your food and your drink. They show no change. Like you've been dead for 100 years." The story says he was with like a drink and a snack, food and drink. Some say it was milk or yogurt from other different things I've read, but there is no specification in the Quran. So the food was still warm and fresh. There was nothing that had changed from it, but he had been dead for 100 years. Are you seeing miracle? Look at your donkey. When he looked at the donkey, he saw that the donkey was dead and down to skeleton because 100 years later, Allah wanted to perform a miracle right in front of his eyes. So his donkey was like down to bones. And thus we have made you a sign for the people. And look at the bones, how we bring them together and clothe them with flesh. So he was staring at the bones of the donkey, and everything was just forming together like this. And then flesh was coming, and then skin, and then his donkey is back to life. 100 years later. When this was clearly shown to him, he said, "I know now that Allah is able to do all things." فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ قَالَ أَعْلَمُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. Allah is all over everything. He's able to do all things. So this is the short story of Prophet Uzayr. Some people say he was son of God. After this happened, there were a group of people that started like worshiping him. Because when he came back to the village, imagine his children are dead, maybe grandchildren are even gone too. Okay, people of that time used to live long. Since there is no details of all that in the Quran, some say that there was a woman who was able to recognize him. She was already very old and she was blind. But when he insisted that he was Uzair, because they know the name Uzair, they know he was a righteous man. They had been told stories by their parents or grandparents, and they know that Uzair disappeared, probably. That was the story that was told. And then this man comes looking very young and he is claiming to be Uzair. Just know that nobody is going to believe that. The English name is Ezra, by the way. His name is Ezra. So the woman was able to identify that actually this man is Uzair, and he went back to teaching people the Torah and all that because it was um because he was like one of the main people that had memorized it. I almost forgot a detailed part. When he woke up, like when he got back up, That town that he was passing by, that he thought was dead, and he was wondering how Allah was going to revive it, it was back to life. Everything was buzzing, people were chilling, everything was happening. There was marketplace, everything was back to life. So you can clearly see how miracles are happening. And in the ayah, it says that this was made as a sign for people. So you should know that we're to learn from this story, and we are to see it as sign and as reminder that definitely, let's say reminder that definitely Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. How did the ayah say it? Anna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. Yeah. Lessons to reflect more on this story. I jotted some things down. The importance of cycles of life and death, remembering hereafter, remembering how life is, everything, being grateful for wherever you are in your point right now. Pay more attention to your own life, because you don't know when you will depart. You don't know when you're going to die. Prophet Uzayr, for example, he wanted to sit by a tree he saw to just eat and rest. He didn't know that that would cost him the next 100 years of his life. So you don't know when you're going to die. So pay attention to your own life and live every moment like it is your last. That's a hadith of the Prophet. Live every moment like it's your last. Allah is capable of all things. Again, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. So when you're in a difficult situation, turn to Allah. As I've said as usual, tawakkul, tawakkul, tawakkul. I say this a lot. Again, Inna Allah ala kulli shay'in qadir. So an interesting thing is, I learned about the story of Uzair from this book I read years ago, about like 2019, 2020, I think. I'd also heard about Uzair from our IRS teacher in just 2, just 3, I don't know which class exactly. And then this is me reading this book, and I was amazed. In the book, it's just his donkey and like the food, because they can't be picture of prophet, and then it's beautifully explained throughout. We should buy these books for our kids, and if you have younger siblings, let me show you this. Yeah, see where the donkey was down to bones. It sort of gives you this image, because I loved the story after reading it from here without even knowing in the Quran. And then see when the flesh and everything of the donkey was forming, Allah reunited the bones, clothed them with flesh, and gave life to the donkey. You can see it. So this is Quran stories for little hearts. They have many other stories. I'm going to put the picture right on the screen, and probably the name of their website here, because I think it's an amazing book that everybody should give their children or their younger siblings, as the case may be. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you have learned something from Prophet Uzair's story today, and I hope you share to somebody so we can all continue to learn Quran stories. Inshallah, more of this to come. I'll try to be consistent. I hope you learned and enjoyed. Masalam.